Hello, I'm Faye.
And I'm Becki. In this podcast, we're going to be talking about maximising your potential as a leader and living your best life personally and professionally.
So join us on the M53 for our weekly chats, full of insights and inspiration, and of course, a cuppa and a butty.
Faye, it's called a brew.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Meet Me on the M53. Today, it's me and Becki again, and we are talking about comparisonitis.
Yes.
And maybe how comparison is the thief of joy.
Isn't it just? Isn't it just?
Now, I've got to be honest, I never really, I don't think I ever really thought much about comparisonitis until I set up my own business.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I don't think I had it when I was employed. I might have done to a certain extent, but not to the extent that I have had it in setting up my own business. So perhaps that's something we'll talk about. But how about you, Becki? Has it come into your life at all?
Oh, comparisonitis plagued my life for many, many, many years. And in fact, it was one of the big driving factors on what the quest for Est was all about, and this idea of becoming the happiest version of yourself, because I spent my life comparing myself to others, and I had this wonderful way of always making sure that I came up short, in whatever it was. I would compare myself in terms of my ability in my career, in terms of my looks, my sporting ability, my speaking ability, my everything. I spent, even the way that I would dress, I would compare, I would travel into work on the tram or the train, depending on what city I was in at the time, on a morning. And oh my goodness, that woman she looks wonderful. Oh, I don't even want to be in this carriage with her, because I feel like I don't belong, because look how wonderful all these other people look around me. So comparisonitis, yes, big problem for me.
Well, you've just made me realise now that I probably have had it all my life. But I think I was probably thinking about it in certain terms. I think there are areas, personally, where I have compared. And still do, I think it's a very human thing to do. So how has it affected you? If it's affected you at all, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'll stick to the professional side for now. When I look at my career, obviously being a woman in construction, there were not many of us, full stop, who worked in that sort of engineering and construction environment. Very few of us who worked in what I'll call like a technical or a managerial role. Lots of the women who worked in that industry work in the administration and the support. They were the backbone that kept us all moving, as we were at the pointy end, as I used to call it, at the pointy end of the stick. And so I found it very, very hard working with other women. I compared myself in every way, from the effective way that they did their job, from the kind of relationships that they were able to build with others, the kind of results that they were able to get, their level of education. Despite doing very well at school, I chose to do an apprenticeship route, and I think that was something that plagued me for a long time, the fact that I didn't have a university degree. And it meant that instead of trying to actively build relationships with these other women, most of whom were really fantastic and would have been fantastic allies for me, I saw them as my competition. And so I didn't build as healthy a relationship as I could and should have done. And instead I sort of, kept myself at arm's length, got to know them to a point. But actually, it might have been such a nicer work environment for me to have have had those better friendships and those allies, rather than constantly putting myself down that I wasn't as good as them and therefore I don't want anything to do with you because you're showing me up in front of my team. Really, it's had, a lot of negative impact, and that's, talking about the professional stuff there, I'm sure you can therefore imagine what kind of effect it had on me from a personal,
much so,
level as well.
I imagine a huge effect, Becki.
A huge effect. And I got very much lost in that space where someone else's success was my failure.
Really?
Oh yeah. If my friends would get a promotion, I'll be really happy for them, genuinely happy for them, but it was just another marker of the way that I'd failed. Or if my friends bought a house before I did, well done to them. They've worked really hard for it, but look at you've still not bought a house. We have bought a house now. But see, do you see that though, Faye?
Yeah,
I felt the need to clarify then there, felt the need to let everybody know, because I am still doing the work on that. I am still doing the work on my comparisonitis.
Wow. And I do remember when I met you, and you and I were thrown into coaching triads together quite early on. So you were one of the first people that I met, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing when you told me this, because I looked at you, at this very glamorous lady sat on Zoom opposite me. And
it's a good job you lot can't see me, because I'm not looking very glamorous right now. But carry on, Faye. Say all the nice things.
Well, you were on this occasion. And actually, that's another thing, isn't it? Because I do remember you saying, I do my hair and I do my makeup to come on Zoom. And I but we do, that's something I do as well. I do my hair and I do my makeup to go on Zoom. Of course I do. I say, of course I do, like everybody does. And I know that they don't.
No.
I know that some people are fine with that. That's not something I'm fine with.
Yes.
But it is interesting. And I do remember you saying, I'm thrown in here with this training and it's a group full of women and I feel very uncomfortable. I remember you saying that to me.
Yeah. Women were, I'd spent, if you look, I spent my career basically working with men. So from the point that I left school at 17, 97% of the people that I came into contact with and that I worked with were male. So I felt very comfortable around men. I knew what I was getting. And through coaching, because, that's the wonderful way that it works, I realised that I still saw women as those bitchy girls that I left at high school. Because that was the last interactions that I had had with big groups of women. And so going into a situation like we had with the coach training, we were all women on our cohort, was, for weeks, it took weeks for me to feel comfortable in that situation. And again, everyone will be really surprised, because I am a big introvert, but I'm loud. I will talk, I will get my point across, but actually, being with groups of people does really drain me. And being with groups of women, I would come away from that coach training absolutely knackered because I just felt completely drained being in that company.
So is it fair to say that comparing yourself to others has stolen your joy?
It massively did. It really, really did. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And what about you? You said at the start, you started with the comparisonitis when you started your own business. What happened there?
Yeah, so going back, I don't think I felt it to the extent in my professional life. I certainly did in my personal life. I completely understand and resonate with what you said about, looking at somebody on the train and they're dressed beautifully, or somebody whose clothes fit them beautifully, or they've got the figure you want, the hairstyle you'd love to have. There are always people like that.
Yes.
In my work, though, I was relatively young when I started on my my career journey. When I say that, I was fresh out of university. There were lots of people older than me on my team. So in 1998, when I changed teams and I started working with workforce development and general business advice, I was the youngest. So I was looking up to people, and I'm a massive believer in role models as well. I believe that everybody should have somebody who they aspire to emulate in some way, shape or form. I'm not talking single white female here. I'm talking about, seeing the good in other people and thinking, oh, I'd love to be like that. And I had a few role models in my team. One lady who was, I think she's probably about 10 years older than me, but we got on really well. She mentored me. I liked her style. I liked who she was. There is no doubt about it that I've picked things up from her that I probably now do unconsciously. I think we just do that. But I had that experience of being a young person who wanted to be like and was inspired, and I aspired to be like people on my team and in my organization. And that has definitely changed as I've got older and seen younger people coming in and thinking, oh, look at them, they look really, they look cool, they look trendy, or what have you. But certainly, I was lucky enough really to work with some fabulous people who taught me a lot, and I soaked it up like a sponge. I really, really did. But then I was made redundant. I was a full-time mum for 5 years. I didn't think at the time that I'd lost confidence. Looking back, I definitely did. I forgot who I was. I forgot my previous skills, even though they were there on paper. I was looking at other people in a way that they had so much more than I did. I forgot who I was. And I never would have said that at the time. I still thought I was confident, but I wasn't. I'd lost a lot of my self-awareness. There is no doubt about that. And when I set up my business, all of a sudden I threw myself into the online world of business, and it's massive. It's huge. I never realized before how big this online community actually is. And then when we start immersing ourselves in the online world, as I did, and I was looking, joining groups with other business owners in there and looking at what they had, what they did, how they helped their clients, I just felt it, that comparisonitis. Like, oh my goodness, am I ever going to match up? Am I ever going to be as good? Am I ever, who's going to want to work with me when they could work with these other wonderful men and women who are out there providing these services? How am I going to put myself across? How am I, and you'd look at other people and you think, well, it's all right for you. that is something I have said in my head so many times. Well, it's all right for you because you've got X, Y, and Z. You have no idea what the reality is for these people. And until we get to know people better, we never have any idea what their reality is. We've only got their online persona. We've only got what we see, what they show to the world. But my goodness me, did it steal my joy? And I just felt so, and for a long time, I will be really honest, for a long, long time, it took me a great deal of time to realize that I needed to do that work on myself, that actually they weren't any better than me. They might be, but as well, I've got my own strengths. I've got a lot of those, and it is about looking at those strengths and saying, and realizing who you are and putting yourself out there and being just as good as knowing that you're just as good as all those other people. And yes, there'll still be things that we need to learn and skills that we need to develop. However, it's so important to remove yourself from that, constantly looking at what other people are doing.
Yes. Yeah. So, you mentioned there about removing yourself from looking what other people are doing and also recognizing your strengths. Was there anything else that helped you to step out of that comparisonitis space?
Yeah, and you mentioned it. It was being coached. Funnily enough, yeah, but being coached by somebody who is I should say who is a fantastic coach, pure coaching. There was no mentoring involved here. There was no you need to do this, you need to do that. It was digging deep. It was very uncomfortable at times for me.
Yes.
Because coaching sometimes can
be really uncomfortable. Yeah.
I had the fortune to be coached by a master coach, and she's been in the world for a while, and she was going for her master coaching at the time. She does a lot of development on herself. So gosh, she put me through my paces, and she made me peel that onion, take off the armor first, because there was a lot of armor. Had to take off the armor, and I at the time I didn't realize what was happening, because it's quite subtle, and you're thinking, why are you asking me these questions? This wasn't what I wanted to, or I thought I wanted to talk about today. I just need to know how to do X, Y, and Z.
Yes,
that's why I went
just tell
for
me.
Coaching. I just wanted to be told, right, I want a strategy for this, blah blah blah. Give me a strategy, and it wasn't that at all. It was right. Let's start just. Let's just start digging. It was, as I said, it was very uncomfortable. And the result of that, it just helped me see myself for who I am again. Not what I was trying to be, but who I really am. And to look at me, who am I? What are my strengths? What are the positive things? What's going on with my thinking? And that's a big one. What's going on with my thinking? What am I catastrophizing today? Because we always go to that space. How do I need to turn this around? And it gave me the tools to do that, and it gave me the support, massive support network, and space to discover who I was and why I was going down these. How I was feeling about myself, and it's just sort of driven that confidence back.
Yeah, and that's you're right, and coaching was definitely a big one for me as well, to help me get out of that space, that comparisonitis space. But then for those who are sat there thinking, well, great, but actually I'm not really interested in coaching, the sort of other things that I would say that can really help you get out of this horrible state of comparisonitis, is to really get to know you and your purpose and what you're about. Put those blinkers on. Stop looking sideways. And I hate stay in your own lane. The thing is, these cliches, they're all there for a reason, right? Because they work. And then the other thing that I found, which is something that I've sort of started playing with recently, is a bit of a mindset flip, because I do still find myself looking at other people. And so what I thought about was, well, if comparison's the thief of joy, could inspiration be the key to unlocking my motivation? And so now when I find myself looking sideways at people, I don't do it in the, oh, you're doing it so much better than I am. You're promoting your business so much better. You are being a better parent, or whatever. Okay, what's triggering me about you? What is it about you that is making me look at you in the first place? Okay, how can I use that to inspire my behavior? If I want to move more, and be closer to where you're at, what do I need to do? I'm not going to use it as a stick to beat myself with. I'm going to use it to inspire me and to motivate me to be a better version of myself. And
it's lovely. A lovely flip side.
It feels so much nicer.
Yeah. And I think when we started the podcast and I said, I didn't used to have comparisonitis when I was younger. I think it was because I was inspired by people. And they did motivate me, because I wanted to get to where they'd got to. I could see the route. I could see the career progression. If I do this, they've done that, and if I did that, brilliant. And I was, I think, I'm using my age as my excuse for doing it. We shouldn't have any excuses for not doing things. We can develop ourselves and change our ways for the rest of our life. But I was young enough. was young enough. I am still a learner, but I was very much a learner back then as well. And I knew that I could, and I had the time to develop myself into certain roles that I wanted to take on in the future.
Yeah,
and it
fantastic.
felt easier then. I right back at the start, I was still living at home with my mom and dad. I didn't have any financial outgoings. I wasn't a mum. I didn't have a house. So it was easy. It felt easy to do back then. And I fully understand that as as many people listening to this that will be parents, maybe caring for elderly parents, doing things around the house that we all have to do. And time is a big thing. And you might think, well, I can't do that because I can't develop myself because I don't have the time.
Yes. Yeah.
But then it's about those choices as well, isn't it?
It is. It's a choice. And it is a choice. It is a choice to stay stuck in that state of comparisonitis, or you make the choice and you choose to move away from it. You take baby steps and you start to move away.
And the other thing that I think is really key, and it's one thing that I always say to my clients when we're talking about strengths, because I talk about strengths a lot with my clients. It's always somewhere where we'll start, identifying those strengths. And often, as you've said, we can come up with a lot of weaknesses, a lot of things we don't like about ourselves. But if you're stuck in comparisonitis, go and talk to your best friend and say, what's really good at, humour me. what do you really like about me?
Yeah.
And they'll look at you and say, well, where's this come from? Why have I got to talk about what I like about you? And you'll say, just please, just give me some, key things that you think are really great about me. And they will not let you down. They will come up with so many things. You'll be in tears. Our friends see those our wonderful traits. That's what they see. That's why they're our friends. That's why they want to hang out with us. And it's why they get in touch with us and why they want to be with us, because they like our wonderful traits. We've all got them.
Yeah. Lean on your crew.
Yeah.
When you're when you're in that low moment, remember your friends, and they will not let you down, as you say.
Bro. So what are your key takeaways for comparisonitis, Becki?
Blinkers. Put those blinkers on.
Yeah.
Find someone that will help you with your comparisonitis, whether that is, as we've said, your friends, your partner, your whatever, someone that's within your current circle, or whether that is down a more formal route with a coach. And there are many, many great coaches out there. And also flip that thinking of, comparison to being inspired, and look at specifically, what is it about this person? Why is it that I'm comparing myself to them? What is it about them that I want that they've got? All right, what am I going to do differently to make sure that I am one day where they are?
Brilliant. Thank you. That's been great. We'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to Meet Me on the M53. If you'd like to know more, you can see Becki at questforest.co.uk and Faye at fayeblakey.com.
Don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss an episode, and thank you to Wahhoo Media for our production. We'll see you next time on the M53.
Safe travels.